Shalini Rao had memorized the sounds of Mumbai's local trains the way other people memorized ragas, the urgent clacking of steel as the wheels hit a junction, the rolling thunder of an express pulling into Dadar, the impatient hiss of compressed air when doors closed too slowly for the motormen's liking. During rush hour, the din swelled until it felt like a single, giant heartbeat keeping the entire city alive. Most commuters never recognized that heartbeat. They pushed, sighed, cursed the delays, and, when the journey was smooth, scrolled through messages without looking up at the palm trees sliding past. Shalini, a ticket inspector on the Central Line, heard more. Underneath the mechanical rhythm, there was another pulse, deep and slow, like the thrum of a hidden bass note. She'd sensed it since her first day on the job, but never found an explanation that satisfied her. Her supervisor, old Ganpat Moore, noticed her tilted head during one of their routine walks through a second-class compartment. "Listening for fare dodgers, Shalu," he teased. "Trying to work out where the real power comes from," she replied, half joking. "Feels like the train has an extra engine I can't see." Ganpat's mouth twitched, the way it did when he held back a secret, but then he just tucked away a folded wad of tickets and waddled toward the next carriage. Later that afternoon, as the train idled at the platform under a caramel-colored sunset, he beckoned her into a deserted pantry car, locked the sliding door, and shut the window. "What you hear," he whispered, "isn't steel and diesel. It's scale and sinew." He tapped the metal floor 3 times. A low tremor answered, so faint she thought she imagined it. "Mumbai didn't grow around the railway," he said. "The railway grew around something older." That was all he would say then, but the seed had been planted. Over the next year, Shalini chased rumours the way other people chased discounts. She stayed back after shift end, rode empty rakes into the maintenance depots, bribed technicians with chai, and listened. A pattern emerged. Whenever she drew near the oldest furnaces, the hidden bass note grew louder, warmer, almost alive. The ridges of her fingertips tingled against the handrails. Nothing in the manuals spoke of it. Nothing in the motormen's gossip, either. A reckoning was building, and she felt she'd be summoned to its front row whether she wished or not. The call arrived on a smothering July afternoon, classic monsoon humidity clinging like a damp sheet. Ganpat collapsed on Platform 4 at Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, while flagging off the 15:47 fast local. By the time Shalini sprinted over, his pulse was fluttering. "Kaka, ambulance is coming," she assured him. He grabbed her wrist with unexpected strength. "Locker, East Wing, 137B, he gasped. "Take it. Keep them from... He coughed crimson into his handkerchief. "The dragon's heart. Last one. They cannot..." Another cough. "Poachers." Then his grip loosened. The paramedics arrived, but she knew, even before they tried, that he was gone. At 16:02, the city lost the one man willing to share its most dangerous secret. The supervisor's keyring carried a brass tag that read 137B. After night fell, Shalini used it on an old wooden locker inside an archive room bricked off from the rest of the terminus offices. The air smelled of dust, ink, and something faintly medicinal. A single green logbook lay inside. On the first page, in Ganpat's careful lettering, "For Shalini Rao, when the time turns bitter." The subsequent pages unfurled a history no schoolbook would print. Long before Horace Wilson planned Mumbai's suburban railway in 1853, the Basalt Hills were home to a dwindling colony of Indian cloud, serpents, dragons, whose bodies carried natural superconductivity. They migrated with the monsoon, feasting on thunderclouds, electricity. As humans quarried hills and reclaimed swamps, the serpents lost breeding grounds. A British engineer named George Fairchild found a mortally wounded female in 1845. He studied her heart, discovered its ability to store and discharge colossal energy without degradation, and made a bargain with the surviving dragons: shelter beneath future railway workshops. In exchange for blood offerings and secrecy, the dragons' beating hearts, encased in custom iron mantles, powered the earliest locomotives, disguised as boilers. The locomotives earned a reputation for impossible endurance that colonial archives ascribed to superior coal. But dragons are not immortal. By 1997, only one remained, codenamed Engine Zero, living beneath the disused coal furnaces of Parel Carshed. Every electric multiple unit running today drew supplemental current siphoned from her heart through underground converters. If anyone severed that channel, Mumbai's rail arteries, and essentially the city itself, would flop into paralysis. The final pages were fresher, written only last week. Ganpat had intercepted chatter about a syndicate of wildlife poachers. They had acquired dragon lore from smuggled Chinese grimoires and traced the last heart to Mumbai. Their plan: infiltrate the system on 15 August, Independence Day, when lines were crowded, security thin, and patriotic fireworks could mask explosions. They intended to stun the dragon, carve out her still-beating heart, and sell it to the highest bidder in Guangzhou. Without that heart, every local train would grind to darkness within hours. One creature for them, 2.5 crore citizens forfeit. The final note, scribbled sideways, read, "Shalu, I trust your ears. Stop them." Shal and I read until dawn, tears rising each time Ganpat's looping script drifted toward bittersweet jokes about his arthritis. By the last sentence, she'd made her decision. She would protect Engine Zero. Never mind that she'd never seen a dragon, except in Bahubali CGI. She owed both the city and the dead man her courage. She phoned her cousin Triveni, a cybercrime analyst with the Maharashtra police. "How hard is it to monitor smuggling chatter on Independence Day?" "Near impossible, Dee Dee. Too many signals." "Find something anyway. Key phrases, heart extract, serpents, superconductive tissue." Triveni inhaled. "Sounding shady." "You mixed up with organ trade?" "Not organs. Something rarer," Sherlany said, and refused further details. Next, she forged a requisition letter for night inspection access to Parel Carshed, stamping it with Ganpat's old seal. By sunset, she was walking along the flooded tracks, boots splashing, lockpicks hidden under her belt buckle. The abandoned furnace hall loomed like a cathedral of shadows, broken stained glass windows rattling in the wind. Officially decommissioned, it was now a refuge for bats and the occasional trespassing graffiti crew. Charlemagne slipped inside through a sliding door rusted ajar. The dragon's heartbeat was unmistakable, a slow gong in her bones, more felt than heard. She followed it down an iron staircase into a circular pit lined with soot. The creature lay coiled among corroded boilers, a snake-like body the length of 4 bogies. Scales dusk blue with veins of copper, 2 delicate wings folded like a sarangi player's hands. Her head rested on steaming coils of her own tail. One eye opened, golden, pupil thin as a rail track. Shalini froze. Every instinct screamed flee. Yet a wave of wordless sorrow rolled out from the dragon, toppling the urge like a child's tower of wooden blocks. The sorrow said, "Finally, a human who dares to look." She stepped closer. "Engine Zero?" She felt foolish naming a creature so ancient. "I'm here to protect you." The dragon's jaw parted, releasing a gust of ozone that ruffled Shalini's hair. In the haze, she glimpsed metal harnesses bolted around the heart area, a lattice of wires leading into concrete tunnels. The harness pulsed amber with each beat. The trains above were drinking from this private spring. A scrape echoed in the hall. Flashlights clicked on. Men in black raincoats fanned out, faces hidden behind anti-pollution masks. Leading them was a clean-shaven figure with a notebook and a tranquilizer rifle. Dr. Ravindran Khatri, a reputed zoologist routinely featured on television panels. "Ms. Rao," he called, as though greeting a colleague. "Thank you for locating our specimen. You saved a significant triangulation." "How do you know my name?" He gestured at an aide who was checking a tablet. "Railway personnel records. You've been sniffing around. We were afraid we'd have to lure you away with some bogus safety drill, but fate expedited matters." Shalini swallowed. 6 men, 2 rifles. She had only a conductor's baton, aluminium, flimsy even for fair arguments. She raised her voice. You think you can cut out her heart and carry it through the city? You'll never get past Marine Drive checkpoints. You'll be lynched when the trains stop. Patrice smiled thinly. Economic collapse covers many sins. By the time the populace notices, the heart will be airlifted to international waters. Blame will bounce between electricity boards, railway unions, and monsoon disruptions. Meanwhile, the buyers have their miracle battery. Everyone wins except, well, a few million commuters. He signaled. Two poachers approached the Dragon, aiming rifles. Shalini stepped between them, baton raised. Her palm sweated so much she nearly dropped it. You'll shoot me, she challenged. Please don't be melodramatic, Khatri said. Trank darts aren't lethal. The poacher fired. A dart hissed. Shalini jerked aside as the projectile nicked her sleeve. Another zipped toward the Dragon's neck. Before it landed, a hiss like a boiler vent erupted from the Dragon's nostrils. White sparks showered the air. The dart's metal shaft melted mid-float, dribbling onto the stone. Khatri's confidence faltered. Plan B, nets. 4 men unfurled a mesh of shimmering cables, likely insulated to resist electricity, and lunged. The Dragon recoiled, wings rising, brushing against ancient beams. Dust cascaded. Shalini darted in, swinging her baton at the nearest man's wrist. He yelped, dropping the net corner. The Dragon saw its opening and surged upward. Steel buckled. An old ventilation duct burst, raining rivets. One rivet slashed Shalini's cheek. She hardly felt it. The poachers adjusted, now firing taser lines. Blue arcs crackled across the scales. The Dragon roared. The sound wasn't auditory alone. It vibrated inside marrow, a grief that scalded like acid. Above, fluorescent tubes in the building flickered and popped. Somewhere along the central line, a whole string of signal lights likely glitched. Shalini snatched a fallen taser gun, flipped its safety. She aimed at Khatri. Stand down or I drop you, he chuckled. That model won't discharge. Battery dead. EMP wave fried it. He stepped closer. I respect your tenacity, Inspector. You value duty. That can be negotiated. Join us. 50 crore rupees and a new passport. You could retire on a private beach, far from the commuter sardine cans. I like sardines, she muttered, then tossed the weapon aside and sprinted toward the main breaker panel she'd noticed earlier. Thick red cables. The lifeline connecting the Dragon to the grid ran through it. An idea, half insane, bloomed. She might weaponize the city's electric draw. She yanked the lever to manual override. Sparks erupted. The Dragon's heartbeat flared, the harness glowing brighter. A thunderclap reverberated below ground, as if every mortarman throttled at once. The poachers staggered, hair standing on end. Shalini smelled ozone and frazzled circuits. Idiot! Khatri shouted, clutching his temples. You'll kill the creature! But a surge of vitality rippled through the Dragon. The electric demand from evening commuters was flooding straight back to her, turning the furnaces into coils of reversed flow. The net cables liquefied. The poachers' tasers burst in their hands, tossing them backward. A column of blue fire spiraled along the ceiling, punching a vent outwards into the storming night. Khatri cursed, retreating. Shalini tackled him before he could flee. He slammed an elbow into her ribs. She kneed his thigh. They rolled over spalled concrete. He snatched a shard of glass and slashed. Pain bloomed near her collarbone. She drove her forehead into his nose crack. He sagged, blood geysering between his fingers. Then the Dragon lowered her head beside them. An eye bigger than a car wheel fixed on Khatri. The golden iris spun like a coin. He whimpered, feebly brandishing the glass. The Dragon inhaled. The air grew so cold their breath crystallized. When she exhaled, a spark, gentle yet potent, danced across Khatri's chest. His eyes rolled back. He collapsed, unconscious, clothes smoldering but skin strangely unharmed. The Dragon turned to Shalini. The same spark touched her torn flesh, knitting fibers. sealing the cut. She gasped as warmth spread, anesthetic and intimate. Outside, sirens wailed. Monsoon rain hammered breaches in the roof. Shalini heard boots approaching. The RPF, alerted by Triveni perhaps. She faced the dragon. "They'll come in shooting," she warned softly. "They won't understand." A coil of the dragon's tail nudged a metal trunk toward her. Inside lay a heart-shaped crystal the size of a coconut, pulsing dimly. Not the dragon's own organ, she realized, but a sympathetic fragment. Maybe a backup capacitor Fairchild had designed. Understanding flickered. If she rerouted trains to this crystal, Engine Zero could slip its harness and migrate, just like their ancestors, leaving the city with a basically inexhaustible battery and sparing herself future poachers. "But where will you go?" Shalini asked. The dragon projected a memory into her mind. Cloud canyons high above Sahyadri ranges, monsoon vapors braiding through cedar groves, lightning veins ripe for harvest. The old migratory path remained waiting. Shalini nodded, throat tight. She climbed to the control desk and typed commands into the antique terminal, heart thumping as lines of green text scrolled. She transferred grid linkage from Core 0 to Auxilia Buffer Crystal A. The panel beeped. Power dipped for a heartbeat citywide, then stabilized. Engine 0 unhooked her talons from the harness. Steel clasps peeled open like petals. With a shake that sent dust avalanching, she unfurled her wings. The windows burst outward, admitting gusts of rain. With a single, ponderous sweep she rose, spiraling through the new skylight, merging with black clouds lit from within by occasional lightning. Above the roar, Shalini swore she heard a farewell chord, rich and melancholy. The RPF team stormed in moments later, rifles up, swallowing shouts when they found poachers sizzling amid ruined equipment. Their commander demanded explanations. Shalini, soaked and trembling, handed over Ganpat's logbook. She didn't care if they believed. The trains were still moving, weren't they? Outside, she could hear the clack-clack resume as if nothing momentous had happened under their wheels. 3 days of interrogation followed. Triveni's intervention, plus forensic proof of tranquilizer gear, convinced authorities to charge Catty's syndicate with wildlife crimes and conspiracy to sabotage essential services. The report blamed the power fluctuation on illegal industrial equipment. Nobody wanted to type the word dragon. Shalini returned to work the following Monday. The weekday rush roared as always. Fish baskets, laptops, singing beggars, lovers squeezing hands before disembarking at Baikula. The hidden heartbeat persisted, but its timbre had changed, slightly higher, brighter, like a tabla tightened after rainfall. She smiled. The crystal heart was doing its duty. At Kula, while issuing a penalty to a teenager who had boarded in the ladies' coach by mistake, Shalini caught a glimpse of cumulus towers over the distant hills. A slit of sunlight gilded their rims. Something long and sinuous traced those clouds before vanishing. No one else seemed to notice. She punched the boy's ticket, scribbled the fine, and tucked her baton under her arm. For the first time since Ganpat's death, Mumbai's cacophony sounded unequivocally beautiful. Underneath, the dragon's gift pulsed stone, copper, electricity, and witness to courage. Shalini resumed her rounds, head held high, listening.